Am I the a-hole for not letting my best friend have her wedding on my property after being uninvited? Am I the a-hole for calling out my kid's future stepmom for treating me like a surrogate? Am I the a-hole for asking my boyfriend to charge his family member for fraud? Am I the a-hole for not letting my best friend have her wedding on my property after being uninvited? One of my 29 male best friends, Carla, 31 female, is getting married soon. It's only meant to be a small backyard type of wedding, but they've been planning it for a few months now, and originally it was supposed to be on my property. They wanted it because it's private, has lots of open space for the reception, and a nice view, and the house could be used for them to get ready and stuff. Of course, I said yes. She and her fiancé Rick were very happy. Thing is, Carla and I do have a history. We went out on and off in college but decided to stay friends. Then I met my wife. We got married. Carla met Rick, and now here they are. Now my wife knows I went out with Carla back in college and she didn't care. Carla still went to our wedding and everything. I never knew if Rick was told or not. It's not my relationship, therefore not my business to say anything, so I never did. Rick found out recently and not in the best way. Not sure how, but from what I heard from friends is that one mutual friend told him. No idea why, we used to date. Not only that, but apparently, Carla said a couple years ago she was still in love with me when she was already dating Rick. Don't have actual confirmation if that's exactly what he was told. All Carla's told me is that Rick was told about our past and he's angry at her for never saying anything. It became quite a drama and didn't hear from her for over a month until now. She told me they're going to couples counseling and that the wedding is still on. But Rick requested that I not attend. It sucks, but I totally get why he wouldn't be comfortable. Then I asked the obvious question, where are they going to hold the wedding then? To my surprise, she said they still want it at our place. Rick said so too, and in my mind I'm going, he doesn't want the guy who dated his fiancée years ago at the wedding but still wants the wedding at his house. My wife and I are expected to just not be at our home that weekend, and I told Carla no. They're going to have to find someplace else since we're not going to simply leave our home to them for the weekend. Not only for safety reasons, but it just doesn't make sense. Rick doesn't want me around because he's not comfortable, but is comfortable enough to have their wedding at my house. They really want their wedding here though, and because of that, I've been bugged by not only her but also Rick and some friends who think I'm being a petty a-hole for not letting them have the wedding here anymore. Honestly, don't think that I am. It just doesn't make sense at all to have to leave our own place for a wedding we're no longer welcome to and leaving our home totally vulnerable. Still, being accused of sabotaging their wedding, and Rick believes it's the least I can do after everything. Am I the a-hole?
Holy cow, and Eric believes it's the least I can do after everything. After what? After he found out his fiancée said she still had feelings for you. After he got mad at his fiancée for hiding details from her past because she knew he wouldn't like them. After you broke up amicably with her long before they got together, moved on, got married to a different woman, and were going to do them a huge favor. The things he's mad about are all things Carla did. He's displacing his anger onto you as a safe target because he doesn't want to break up with her and doesn't know how to work through anger and trust issues in a healthy way, therefore it has to be your fault somehow. Hopefully their couple's therapist will work out what's going on and help him get through it to a more healthy mindset, but that's not your problem, and neither is the question of where they're going to hold the wedding, now that Rick's completely torpedoed the original plan. I totally understand Rick's discomfort over Carla hiding that you two dated. And it's made worse by the fact that he may know she said she was still in love with you when they started to date. But expecting to hold their wedding at your home while kicking you out for the weekend and uninviting you is really ballsy and outrageous. If he is that uncertain whether his fiancée has lingering feelings for someone who's now married, then they shouldn't be getting married, at least not now. Rick is displacing some of his anger towards Carla onto you because he loves her and wants to forgive her for keeping the relationship a secret. You have done nothing wrong. NTA as a homeowner you will be liable for everything including possible fire or broken stuff at the wedding, electrical bill etc. Your house insurance will not cover any possible damage from wedding and will treat you as a venue. It is plain financially liability for you. On top of that these people have serious boundary issues, are entitled and dramatic. The fact that you are even thinking of possibility to allow them on your property and experience guilt means you also have boundary issues and need to rethink some things in life. Perhaps reading a good book on boundaries will help you out. NTA I won't fault Rick for feeling uncomfortable, but he is absolutely at fault for 1, letting his insecurity get the best of him and 2, still expecting you and your wife to offer your home for their wedding after being disinvited. That is completely ludicrous. Hold your ground and don't let anybody sway you. Why isn't anyone telling Rick their relationship was so long ago? It doesn't matter, this shouldn't affect your relationship with your fiancé, and don't disinvite your finances good friends who are being extremely generous and letting you get married on their property. Like, Rick needs to be an adult here and the people around him should be telling him as much. NTA asked these friends would they allow a large party of people that includes many strangers they have never met to have a party at their home without them? Would they be fine to open up their house to strangers without supervision? Are they going to pay for your loss if your property gets damaged or stolen? This guy already have a beef with you. How do you know he's not going to try and get petty revenge by accidentally trashing your house? Still, being accused of sabotaging their wedding and Rick believes it's the least I can do after everything they have issues in their relationship that had nothing to do with you. Rick is sabotaging his own wedding and you have done nothing. Honestly if this wedding end up being called off, Carla dodged a bullet. I've had 2 separate weddings in my backyard, we live on a lake, and it is an absolute nightmare and huge imposition when you want to do it and are invited. I can only imagine when you're told to get the heck out for the weekend. I wouldn't do it. There's going to be people you don't know there and they're going to be all up in your house, even rooms you wouldn't want them in. If there are kids, they're probably gonna be allowed to run wild while the adults are getting things ready done. Don't let anyone bully you into allowing this to happen at your home. NTA.
Am I the a-hole for calling out my kid's future stepmom for treating me like a surrogate? I, 29 female, dated a guy, Joe, 30 male, for 3 months before he left me to go back to his ex, Kim, 30 female. Right after we broke up, I found out I was pregnant and now I'm at 24 weeks. I let him know and he was ecstatic. Turns out his girlfriend had fertility issues and would likely never be able to get pregnant naturally, and he has always wanted to be a father. Getting back together was out of the question for both of us, so he's still with his girlfriend. Joe was only allowed at the initial appointment because of COVID-19, and we found out I was having twins. According to Joe, when he told Kim, she had a mental breakdown about her infertility and wanted to talk to me. I met them at their house and Kim stated that she wanted to be involved in my pregnancy because she would eventually be the children's stepmother. She started telling me that I needed to do a home birth and that I needed to formula feed so that they could have the babies half of the week, that she wanted 1 boy and 1 girl, and that she wanted the kid to call her mama since they would be calling me mommy. I shut her down and said I would make the best choices for my children and my body and left. Kim continued to be overbearing and texting me every day about my eating habits, exercise habits, and bitching about how her job wouldn't let her take maternity leave. At the virtual genetics counseling appointment, she attended instead of Joe and took over the whole meeting trying to talk about her family history, which wasn't relevant. When it came time for my 20-week level 2 scan, they allowed me 1 guest and Joe suggested I take Kim instead of him, which I refused to do. Joe did end up coming and he found out the gender because I wanted to keep it a surprise for me so we could throw a gender reveal party. I put a pregnancy announcement on my social media and then she put up an announcement saying they were expecting twins, the non-traditional way, and how blessed she was. I was irritated but I kept my mouth shut. Then she threw a gender reveal party and posted it on social media. I wasn't even invited. She also announced that she's having a baby shower. I commented on her posts and told her to stop treating me like a surrogate, that the kids weren't hers, and that Joe didn't have any claim or custody of the kids until they are born. I then called Joe and reiterated all of this and stated that I would not be seeing either of them until we went to family court and that my mother would be my birthday partner. He and Kim and some of her friends and family are saying I'm an a-hole, and her mother even called and insisted I give her one of my babies like this is the parent trap. So am I the a-hole?
I'm sorry you're going through this, Mama. I can't imagine the pain you're going through. Must be hard. I definitely would get a lawyer and see my options. Don't just leave and make it go back to you. Talk to your lawyer from both states. See what they recommend. You're definitely not an asshole. Kim is crazy. I understand how hard infertility can be, but damn, she must be out of her mind. Like, first, what made me furious is that I can't believe Joe knew the gender and they threw a gender reveal without you. Second of all, her being with you at one of your apps, honey, that's a red flag. Who does she think she is? Maybe that's what also caused her to feel like she has a right to everything. Did Joe tell her something? What does he think from all of this? Please keep us updated. I really hope it doesn't end in a bad note. ZPS, did I mention you are not the asshole? You have 100% right to everything you are feeling and to everything you want to do with your body and pregnancy. Please keep us updated and stay safe. It sounds like they only broke up so he could find someone to get pregnant to skip the fees of IVF or surrogacy. They don't respect you or treat you like an equal, and you need to leave now. Do whatever you can to go back out of the state to your family, go completely no contact with them, keep records of everything, and get a lawyer that specializes in family court. If there hasn't been a paternity test yet, refuse to have one done unless you are actually forced by a court order. Get a restraining order against the GF if you can, and make sure you never are in the same room as them, at the very least without another person you actually trust. Check your local laws, and if paternity rights are automatically granted to your husband, consider asking a trusted male friend to marry you so the baby daddy doesn't get any rights. Also, set up guardianship now of your children to someone you trust like your parents, if that's an option in the case that anything were to happen to you, because they should never have the chance of having your kids. Echoing NTA, please make sure that you document everything and store it somewhere that someone you trust has access to it. Start gathering evidence and start getting lawyers, cops, your OB, etc. all involved. The more people who know and can have documentation, the better. Make sure you alert the hospital and your OB prior to your birth and make absolutely sure they know who is and who is not allowed to 1. Visit you and 2. Is allowed to call the hospital and ask if you are there. I would also ask the hospital what their security policies are beforehand. I would keep the number of visitors limited, as well as make sure that those close to you respect your wishes as far as telling other people, posting on social media, etc. Make very clear ground rules. Do not back down from protecting your babies. Make him fight for the ability to be on the birth certificate. Move away if you are able. Literally make this as hard as possible for her to have access through him. Do not underestimate the lengths she may go to. She has already proven to have absolutely irrational solutions also. Please stay safe for you and your kiddos.
Am I the a-hole for asking my boyfriend to charge his family member for fraud? Throwaway account, backstory, I, 27 female, and my boyfriend, 34 male, have been together 5 years and have worked really hard to save for a house. 2 weeks ago, we fell in love with the house and we put down an initial deposit to hold the property. The house won't be built until end of 2022. We have been in talks with a mortgage broker and the builder's finance people. Last week, we received some shocking news when my boyfriend's credit score came back as being bad. There was activity on the statement that was 100% not his, and a credit card that has gone into default over the last 6 months. This credit card was originally my boyfriend's, but he swears he closed the account and canceled the card mid-2019. Long story short, we discovered that a family member that was living with him a few years ago has gotten a hold of the card at some point and has been using the card on and off since 2019. They defaulted on payments in early 2020 but paid this off, then defaulted again in December of last year, and the account is still in default and over $5,000 is owed in charges and late fees. Charges for shopping, news agency, takeaway food, and pubs. Gambling. My boyfriend has had zero knowledge of this and he hasn't had access to the account after he closed it and hasn't been receiving statements or notices from the bank. The family member has diverted these to their address. We're now unable to successfully apply for a bank loan for our house as they won't lend to my boyfriend with his credit the way it is. Our options are to proceed with fraud investigations and charges in the family member, allowing us to prove this is of no fault of my boyfriend's and successfully secure the loan. Or, boyfriend pays the debt and we wait at least 2 years from the pay of debt for his credit to regain some loss. Option 2 sets us back at least 3 years in starting a family and our lives as homeowners. This will also not allow my boyfriend to secure a bank loan to start up his own business he's been dreaming of starting for a few years. This was the year he planned on. This has devastated us and put a massive delay in our plans. My boyfriend doesn't like conflict and is going with option 2. He isn't even planning on mentioning anything to the family member. He wants it all go away and thinks this family member is going through a rough time. I want my boyfriend to proceed with fraud charges and investigation. We have worked too hard to not have our dream house and him owning his own business. So am I the a-hole for pushing my opinion on my boyfriend?
NTA, but it might be a losing battle. This will affect both of your future, and he's making a decision where the people who did wrong get no consequences, and the innocent people get further screwed all in the name of avoiding conflict. His response of the relative going through a hard time is cowardice and nothing more. He's showing empathy to the relatives who screwed him over with fraud and is willing to put your future on hold. 2 to 3 years is a lot, and it could be longer because life happens. He's having no empathy for you, who is collateral in this mess. He chooses the path of least resistance, and if you agree to postpone your life to protect these jerks, you will confirm to him that you are that path. Every time he has to choose who to screw over, he'll choose to spare the rest because you will create the least amount of hassle for him to deal with. That's not fair to you. You can't control what he does in the end, you can only control your actions. If he chooses to spare his family, then I'd remove myself from the situation and leave. NTA, even if he pays this off, it's going to remain for some time on his credit report. The only way to get it gone is to report fraud to the CC issuer, as well as prove he cancelled that card. I hope he kept records. And you need to be careful with commingling finances with him if this is how he treats his credit and conflict resolution. You've just gotten a taste of bad credit affecting things. It can get much worse and last many years. Notice. Keep documentation on payments and cancellations for at least a year, and check your credit history and score at least once a year, and more often, if you are planning a big purchase. Seriously, keeping records is tedious, but can save your bacon when things come into question. I always keep transactions codes when verbally dealing with agencies on the phone. I take notes, names, conversation points, amounts, off transactions codes on verbal transactions disputes on Notepad, then save them. I take screenshots of online transactions, as well as save prints to PDF, and I save all mail email transactions. I have folders set up for short and long-term saving, and have even saved them to an external drive if they are really important and long. NTA, the family member knowingly and willingly committed fraud. They lost any right to throw around the family card when they knowingly and willingly committed fraud against a family member. What they did has huge ramifications on your life. You now have to either go through all the BS with a fraud investigation or put your life goals on hold because this family member pulled a criminal act and screwed over you and your BF. Either way, this is going to delay a huge life goal you worked hard for. The family member should 100% be charged with fraud because that is exactly what they did. This was not some kind of accident. They actively did not give a foo about your BF and should face the consequences of their actions. Your BF is taking being non-confrontational to a crazy level. If the barista gets your order slightly wrong and you don't want to ask them to correct it, sure. If someone says something dumb once and you don't want to call them out on it, sure. If someone defrauded you out of thousands of dollars, you have to confront them about it. Your BF is being ridiculous and needs to stop being a complete pushover and doormat. If he lets this go, are you also supposed to just accept being taken advantage of by people in the future as well? He needs to grow a spine and charge this family member with fraud. Being in a rough situation does not make it okay to defraud someone out of thousands of dollars.